Welcome back, everybody, and to the Pixelmon World Championships. I know we haven't been able to stream the last few battles. Unfortunately, that sometimes happens on our end. But I will say we are now currently onto the semifinals with the first set of matches, I believe, between PokeSaga and Astral Pixelmon. What are your thoughts on things going up until now?
Well, of course, we now are in the top four. Um, so the last four teams remain, and I believe only the top three get prizes. So, regardless of where you are in the top four, you don't want to be knocked out now. Um, but I'm
That
fairly
certainly
sure
is true.
all of our teams that have gotten here aren't very much of a surprise. Um,
Uh,
I take that back actually. So our teams that we will be seeing over the top four are Astral MC and PokeSaga and PokeGalaxia and Hollowed Fantasy. Which is Astral is our fifth seed, PokeSaga is our eighth seed, PokeGalaxia is our sixth seed, and Hollowed Fantasy is our seventh seed. So the top four are actually long gone. We have basically the more or less
ooh,
the sixth to no, the fifth to eighth. Yeah, the fifth to eighth seeds have made it through to the top four. We do actually have our first match starting now with a Glamora
it
and
looks
a
like
Melmetal lead. We will have to have a restart though, as apparently there's a. I didn't know this. Apparently there's a turn timer on the actual preview screen. So if you don't select fast enough, it'll just select a Pokemon. So we will have a
while
restart.
that is true.
We will have a restart. With the same leads and Glamora and Melmetal. Now, of course, Melmetal is one of the few Pokemon that can actually kill Glamora in one turn. That's not necessarily bad for Glamora, as a double Iron Bash still will proc both layers of Toxic Spikes. Glamora will be faster. It will be able to get a Stealth Rock off if it wishes to. Um,
That is true. Um, Although we could potentially also see a different pivot as well, depending on the set. Despite a very common set being that suicide lead, I have seen things like Choice Specs and Choice Scarf before. Bit hard to say whether or not that's actually what will be coming out here, but it could very well be an opportunity. I will say though, with this kind of matchup, Bono is very much at the advantage here. Only other way I could really imagine something like that happening. There we go. We have the same leads as before. Something that I could
to be
imagine
fair, I
happening
think this
here.
is one of the best looking outcomes for Glamora, as if it is a suicide lead Glamora, as you don't want the Glamora to live. You don't want it to stay in long term. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to die fast, set hazards, and get out. Well, not necessarily get out, but bring in extra things. So if it does die this turn to a double iron bash, not just will it set up potentially three hazards, but also it will allow something else to immediately come in for free without taking any damage and potentially threaten the Melmetal right back out. So I think this is actually quite the advantageous position from this Glamora. We do see the
Oh
Melmetal
my.
switch out as the Earth Power comes out, doing a small amount on the Slowking.
While that's true, that's actually not. That's actually might have been one of the worst plays you could have done here, as Glamora is free to set up Stealth Rock in face of something like Slowking here. Although I won't. Although I can't help but deny that Future Sight might be able to be kind of helpful here. Glamora
You
comes
see the
out. In
Hoopa
comes, I
coming
believe this is
in.
Hoopa Unbound. I will say that if any point I do accidentally disconnect or you stop hearing me, that'll likely be because either Discord has crashed, blame Discord, or I straight up have a power outage. It's a bit hard to say. I just want to preface that for you, everyone in the stream here, that I might randomly just leave.
I do see the Diancie come in, taking the Hyperspace Fury and actually taking over
Ooh,
half. However, this Hoopa will be threatened out. Interestingly, taking so much damage from that Hyperspace Fury despite the defenses of a Diancie.
something to keep in mind is that I think Koopa has around 160 attack. Add on the choice band on top. I'm surprised it didn't do more. And another thing to keep in mind as well is that in a lot of cases, especially with Mega Deoncé, um, you could probably wager that it's not really max HP, but rather max speed and special attack, meaning it's not too
This
invested in bulk.
this Diancie, however, it does. I'm assuming it's running Mega. If it does Mega later on, it does actually go for the Mega immediately. With it being, geez, actually did a lot of damage on that Tapu Lele coming in, taking both the
Actually, almost
Moonblast
just straight
and
up
the
KO'd
Future
it.
Sight, almost taking it out. The Tapu Lele will live and does threaten with a Choice Scarf. Um, Diancie usually wouldn't be threatened by Tapu Lele, but a Diancie at this health value definitely is threatened.
Well, that's true. Something to consider is that if you try pivoting it into something like, say, Melmetal, this is either Fightinium Z or you just get the read correct. Melmetal is just straight up gone.
Bringing a Fightinium Z Tapu Lele against a Diancie that was very risky as Diancie would outspeed. We do see the Momental coming in, taking a Psychic. Despite the crit, it still doesn't do much with Momental's very, very high bulk and its resist to that. Even a crit still won't do much. And Tapu Lele will be threatened out. And we seem to be seeing a lot of this in this match, where something comes in, forces the other Pokemon out, and the other Pokemon coming in takes huge damage. We've seen that like 2 or 3 times already in this matchup, and it's likely going to happen again in this turn. Whatever's switching in here is likely going to take quite a big chunk.
One thing I'm a little bit curious about, actually, I'm a little bit curious to see how Echo can try to respond to this, because on the one hand, a lot of their Pokemon are left alive.
Oh
All
wow!
it takes is a little bit of hazard. Sinistra coming out.
I believe it's the first one we've seen in this entire tournament in the semifinals, very late. Um, as both players will pivot out, bringing Sinistcha and the Slowking.
No, this is actually something a little bit curious about. Sinistra, of course, being a very good Calm Mind user, able to use things like Strength Sap and Matcha Gotcha. I hope I'm spelling that, pronouncing that right. But I would imagine with Grass and Ghost, a pretty surprisingly solid combination of um, moves. I feel like it's similar to Bolt Beam, where you
We
can't
will
really resist
see.
either.
We will see Mawile come out against the Slowking. The Slowking does go for the slow pivot out. Likely bring in
Very
something
wise
that can
play.
just threaten this Mawile right out the field, as although Mega Mawile can hit very hard, it is very slow, and it is quite easy to threaten out if you have something fast enough. And we see something exactly like that with the Landorus coming in, very easily able to threaten this Mawile.
Something to keep in mind as well is that when it get I could be wrong, when it gains huge power, it's based on not its base attack, but rather the amount of attack it has at the start, meaning by cutting the attack here, you're not only reducing it by 1.5 times its normal amount, it could potentially be even more.
Landorus usually can't actually switch in a Mawile, but when you have a free switch in like that, absolutely threatened out as the Sinistcha will come back in, taking an Earthquake and not taking that much damage.
While that is true, there's quite a few options you could go for here. Matcha Gotcha would be devastating if it lands a burn, but I want to see if they potentially go for something like Strength Sap or Calm Mind instead. Heck, for all we know, it could even be running Scald.
Sinisha is a very interesting Pokemon because although it does have an amount of an identity and a place in regular Scarlet Violet OU, it doesn't have that similar position in National Deck. It's not used that much, so it could be running anything. We do see the Glamora come in, taking a knockoff from this Landorus. Um, does knock off that Focus Sash. Not that it matters, as it does obviously take a chunk of damage from the knockoff, which would negate the Focus Sash anyway, and does get that first layer of Toxic Spikes set.
What
Aside from this Landorus, have we seen a Hazard clear on Bono's side?
I believe we've seen what Melmetal, Deontay, and Landorus. Potentially, no, actually. Um, uh, maybe the Magic Bouncer, but keep in mind, I think with abilities, I don't know if the Toxic Spike would even be affected by Magic Bounce.
Very good question. I'll go check.
There we
It's
go,
actually
Stealth Rock, allowing for more hazards as Landorus goes for the Earthquake to KO. That is what I was suggesting earlier, potentially keeping it alive for later and allowing a little bit of extra chip damage. We saw that with the Melmetal, or not the Melmetals, rather something with Earth Power.
no,
Now,
it doesn't. It can specifically match. It can only bounce back moves specifically. You have Stealth Rock and two layers of Toxic Spikes. Potentially quite huge.
I'm trying to imagine what is left, and safe to say, I'm not looking. It's not looking too good for Echo right now, unless I could very well be wrong. As far as I'm aware, the only things I've seen are not very appreciative. In comes the Tapu Lele, certainly could outspeed, but I feel like at any moment Landorus could. Oh, there we go. In comes the Slowking as Tapu Lele goes for the Psychic. Now, this could be an interesting dilemma. Obviously, the Sludge Bomb will be enough to KO, but do you risk potentially going for a Future Sight? It's a bit hard to say. Slowking going for the Chiller Reception here, interestingly enough. At this point, I'm actually curious to see what's going to happen. Melmetal brought back in. We know now that this Tapu Lele is still going for Psychic. This is the proper test, everyone. Is this Titanium Z, or is it forced to swap out here? And it looks like we are waiting with bated breath to see what happens. This is quite the dilemma here for Echo, as if Melmetal is in fact able to do it, Tapu Lele trying to get a little bit of extra damage, certainly not a horrible amount. Thunder Punch finally removing the Lele here. That could certainly be helpful with making um, Echo's team considerably easier to handle. But this Melmetal, I don't see any way it can recover unless it somehow has grassy terrain. I believe this is the Assault Vest set. So it's hard to say what will properly happen. Um, what do you think could be the option that Echo attempts to go for here?
I don't know. We haven't seen all of Echo's team. Um, Bono is playing quite confidently. So obviously, they do know what. We do see the Hoopa come back out. I think Hoopa's faster. I'm fairly sure. Um, I believe we'll be able to threaten this Melmetal, especially with the health value Melmetal is currently at. I believe a superpower would be enough to drive this Melmetal over the edge.
But is that actually what it wants to go for here? I would imagine Hyperspace Fury is still enough to KO. Keep in mind, Hoopa Unbound has 160 attack, and Hyperspace Fury is by no means a weak move. It might, Bono might be forced to sack here, but the question is, what does he want to sack, if anything at all? I highly doubt there's another Gomorrah on Bono's team. I think he's just running standard balance.
We did, of course, see that the switch in before Dennis Hoopa was that Mega Diancie, but that was a non Mega Diancie which had considerably higher defenses and is now a regular Mega Diancie, which will mean that it has considerably lower defenses. And even then, as a Diancie, it took well over half. We do see the Landorus come in, taking a Hyperspace Fury, bringing it under half. But Landorus will likely be faster depending on what set it's running. I think it's just
That
fast.
is
Isn't it
true.
faster by base? Yeah, no, it's just fast. Even with zero speed investment, it will be faster unless Tupa has speed investment, which I doubt. Um, Although it could, it could. Um, we'll have to see. Um, However, the fact that this Landorus is brought in so confidently, I would assume that Bono is confident it will outspeed. It doesn't! It has no speed investment at all. Hoopa does have more speed investment. It will take out that Landorus.
Now, this could be an interesting dilemma here, but I want to double check. Deontay is coming back out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a bit tough to say for certain what will happen. This is what I would imagine would have come out as a potential swap. We know now that Hoopa is very much threatened by Moonblast. I don't know if it's enough to KO. Chances are it is, although it could very
The
well be
fact
wrong.
that it has full speed investment and no HP investment or special defense investment, very possible that it is in range of being threatened.
I would imagine chances are that is the case. I'm glad to see that currently my my computer has weathered the storm thus far. But I will say this is kind of an interesting position for Bono, as with the Landers dead, um, we don't know what else is on Echo's team. But
That was
whatever
a
it was,
fantastic defensive pivot that is just gone.
that is true. The question remains though, what can safely swap in to Deontay's attacks here? As obviously Moonblast will either KO it or at the very least threaten so much damage that it can't really safely come in anymore. There we go. In comes the Mawile, as we saw earlier, dealing a significant amount. Now, this is the question. Do you think Mawile will be able to KO with Sucker Punch from this range?
I would say so. Personally, I would probably say so. With how hard a Mega Mobile hits and how low defenses Diancie has, I would Mega Diancie. I would assume so.
Well, let's see what happens. I would.
I would also say,
Ooh.
do you have a choice? Do you have other options there at all?
There we go. Aloma Mola coming in as Mawile goes for the play rough.
Predicting that the Diancie will be forced to switch out. Potentially very risky. Also, not going for the Mega.
Oh, that is true. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. Hoopa being brought back out. I would imagine Hyperspace Fury would likely do a lot here. Probably even potentially enough to outright KO the Alomomola here. Likely it is forced to either flip turn or at the very least faint so that the Deontay is able to come back out.
Very potentially.
Actually, a surprisingly good position. Potentially, this might be a catch-22 for Echo, where if they attempt to try and outright KO with Hyperspace Fury, that will likely. There we go.
Oh
Choosing to sack Alomomola here, not a bad choice.
no, potentially. With the Mawile, maybe what they were going for there was they knew they threatened out and were banking on that. So instead of going for the Mega, they choose to stay on Mega so that they can still take advantage of Intimidate.
Now this is actually interesting. I'm
Diancie
surprised
does come
Wish
back
hasn't come
in,
out yet.
taking more stealth rope damage.
Actually, I didn't. I completely forgot about this. Wish didn't go through. I completely forgot. I think fainting him on will disable the Wish here. Malo comes back out, but there we go.
We'll
The
go
Deontay
down
is
to that
fainted.
Moonblast, but will also mean that that Diamond Storm from a Diancie will do considerably less. As we do see the Sinistcha coming back in.
I believe I could be wrong. I think the only things remaining are Sinistra and that Hoopa Unbound. Um,
I think the Sinistcha is safe here. I think. Um, I don't know what investment it
all right.
has.
I did the calculations. I do think
We do see the
there we
Kyurem
go.
coming in, taking a Shadow Ball. Will also threaten the Sinistcha back out. If this is a sub roost on this Kyurem, this is a perfect time to go for a substitute.
Is that a risk you want to take, though? Allowing the Sinistra to set up Calm Minds would be devastating.
Would it? Because I mean, if you put up that substitute, you get a turn. You get a free turn, regardless if they calm mind or not. You get a turn, and they need to take 2 turns to break through that. And I think you can do plenty damage with it.
Well, we'll have to see what actually happens here. This could be the pivotal turn. If Bono gets this wrong, Echo could very likely bring this back.
Oh yeah, even running the calcs, like this thing is still in range of dying. Even if it's. Do you see the
There we go.
substitute come
Kieran going
out?
for substitute.
Do
Does
you see the
Sinistra?
Shadow
Oh my
Ball
god!
coming
Going for
out?
crit.
Deciding to just stay in.
Well, that's the kind of dilemma here you have to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess you really don't want that Kyurem to be behind that substitute. We'll see the Roost come out. See a second Shadow Ball coming out from this
Shadow
Kyurem.
gets drop special defense.
I'm assuming that this Kyurem is just going to put the Sinistcha on the ground this turn. It does.
There we go. Raw freeze
Oh,
dry.
it will live. I'm curious as to what set the Sinistcha is running then, because it's not running the usual set. As that would have died. That freeze dry. Oh, never
There we
mind. I'm
go.
on the wrong.
Maru's coming out again, but
So,
Kieran's
oh,
likely forced to just try and outright go for a KO here if it wants to survive. At some point, there will be enough special defense drops to where it really might be one shot. There we go, roosting again, allowing the Sinistra here to finally go for more. Freeze dry coming out once again. It looks like Bono understood that.
we do see the Volcarona coming out. This could potentially be a very, very strong Pokemon, as neither a Freeze Dry nor an Earth Power threaten this Volcarona. It will have a free turn to go for a Quiver Dance. Slowking will
There we
come
go.
in.
Slowking coming in. We'll have to see though. Is this special defense? We'll have to see though. Does this have Thunder Wave? Now, all right, there we go. Making sure I'm not accidentally doing anything. I don't think I've crashed yet. Hopefully,
So here.
there we go. Good. There we go. We've successfully Thunder Wave paralysis has come through. Um, the question still remains though. Oh, that is actually huge. Allowing the actually could be the difference maker here. That paralysis could allow Deontay to come in and go for the there we go, allowing it to come in for free and go for a Diamond Storm here. And I don't think there's anything left that can safely come in. There we go. It comes to Diamond Storm, enough to outright KO.
Hoopa will come in.
Hoopa. I think this is the final Pokemon left.
However, I do believe I ran the calcs earlier. I do believe it would live a Moonblast, but I do believe the things in bonus team can just clean up this Hoopa. Especially since it will be choice locked as well, so you need to decide carefully what you want to be choice locked into here.
I would imagine your best bet would be that Hyperspace Fury, as it allows a safe KO on pretty much the rest of the team. If this is Choice Scarf Hoopa, I could see an out for Echo.
Yeah, this is choice. Moonblast will KO. Will be enough.
4 Pokemon remaining.
As Echo Captain and Astral MC will lose that first match. They are now in prime danger of being knocked out of the tournament. We will have our next match coming up. Astral needs to play careful here, as they cannot afford to lose another match. We will be seeing Hauntley of PokeSaga and Ant Smash of Astral MC.
We'll have to see here what happens, everyone.
Because it's not Astral MC. It's not even Astral Pixelmon. It's just Astral.
Now, this could be interesting. I believe Ant Smash has used a different variety of teams. We could be seeing Stall here, which might be the safest. But I think we've seen has prepared for that.
I think we've seen Stall and Balance sets from Ant Smash. We'll have to see.
The question remains.
You see, I would assume PokeSaga. If I was in PokeSaga's shoes, personally, I would be preparing for Stall, and I'd have teams built around specifically dealing with Stall. So although it does seem to be what Astral is strongest with, it may be very risky to go with that, as it is something that they have shown repeatedly that they like to do. Um, we'll just have to see. Um, PokeSaga's fighter is ready. We're just waiting for Ant Smash. Finish up their preparations.
It looks like both of them are in the player. It looks like both of them are in team preview. Now this could be interesting. What does Huntley choose to bring out? More importantly, what does Ant Smash choose to bring out? This could very well determine the fate of either of these teams. Both of them have done incredibly well this far.
Astral is the highest seeded teams of the teams that are remaining. So we'll have to see if that pays an influence at all. I also believe that out of the teams remaining, I believe PokeSaga is actually the lowest seeded. This is our fourth and is it fourth? Oh, fifth and eighth seed.
We'll have to see what happens here. Is will I? We'll have to see whose run is ended here today. It looks like we're taking a little. Now I'm actually a bit intrigued to see what is happening here. Could we potentially be seeing the Gliscor lead? That's a very common lead I've seen thus
Do you
far.
see a Lopunny and a Lomomola? I do
There we go.
believe we have seen that Lopunny, likely Mega Lopunny from Ant Smash before, on a 4-stall 2-Piper offense team.
There we
Lopunny
go.
immediately going for the
U-turn.
U-turn. As both
What
Pokemon
I'm
take
interested in
around the
seeing is
same amount of damage, one from U-turn, one from...
something I'm actually a little bit interested in, at least for the time being, is
We do see the Toxapex coming in. This does appear to be Ant Smash's mix of stolen hyper offense. Zilomomola will go for a flip turn, not being baited by the opportunity to go for a toxic. Do see the Hoopa come in, very much looking to threaten this Toxapex right out the field and threaten high damage on whatever wishes to take its place.
now this is interesting. Fun fact: Hoopa is not just a pure physical attacker. We have seen special attacking Hoopa and Bounce before, or at the very least, I have. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what is going to happen here. What could the Koopa potentially do in this situation? That's what I'm intrigued about. Obviously, Hyperspace Fury will likely be doing a lot, maybe even potentially KOing, depending on what the EV spread is. When I'm, there we go. Toxvex comes in as Ferrothorn goes. Ferrothorn's brought in.
You see the Psyshock
Psyshock coming
coming
out.
out. This may very well be a specially invested hoop.
What I'm curious to see though is if this is potentially choice lock, because if that's the case, things could be looking very bad.
You see the Hoopa switching out as the Cinderace will come in, looking to threaten that Ferrothorn right back off the field. Ferrothorn does go for a knockoff, getting rid of Cinderace's heavy duty boots. However, hazards have not been set yet, so currently that won't matter too bad. Too bad? Too much.
Now this could be interesting. Toxvex does come back in. We know now Toxvex is not in fact Rocky Helmet. It's probably heavy duty boots.
You see Cinderace go for the knowing that it threatens out the Ferrothorn, so just going for the safe pivot instead. Likely looking to bring that Hoopa back in. Play some mind games.
There we go.
Indeed.
Hoopa is brought in.
Play
Toxvex
some...
likely isn't safe here. But
Isn't
does Hoopa
safe.
want to go for something like Hyperspace Fury, or does it potentially want to go for something like a fighting? We'll have to see what happens. So we are left with a very unfortunate dilemma here. Obviously, if you go for a fighting move, Toxapex is free to just click Toxic Spikes or Toxic, and that is your main wall breaker on a timer, which is a very bad situation. But do you want to stay in? These are the risks that must happen. Gliscor comes in. Hoopa goes for the Dark Pulse, dealing, frankly, way too much damage to this Gliscor. Not quite enough to KO. It is actually interesting. Dark Pulse dealing a lot to this Gliscor here is a difference maker. Gliscor will likely be forced to either pivot into Blissey, or it is forced to protect and try and go into something else.
I don't believe we've seen a Blissey.
Chances are, if they have Gliscor, it's very much likely it is Blissey, or it's potentially just immediately pivoting back into something like, say, the Toxapex, and even then, Koopa is such an effective wall breaker for this kind of team. That's a
Notably,
bit
it
hard to
also
say.
depends on the speed investment of these Pokemon. As I don't know what investment this have, and if both of these Pokemon have zero speed investment, that Gliscor will be faster, and a U-turn will threaten high damage here.
I would imagine in this instance, Koopa likely is faster, depending on the situation.
You see the Gliscor switching out, bringing the Toxapex back in, taking a big chunk as this Hoopa is just messing up and Smash's team. Do they have a switch in for this? Do they have something that can comfortably switch into a Dark Pulse? I don't know if they do.
There we go.
You see the
Lockety
Lopunny
Brock.
coming in, still taking a huge chunk. We'll be able to threaten this Hoopa, as it will be faster regardless, and a U-turn will heavily threaten. But still,
While that
taking
is
a
true,
huge chunk of damage in the mean. This Hoopa could potentially be a game changer, as that Lopunny will not be able to switch onto another Dark Pulse in the future if this scenario is to repeat itself. And I don't know if Ant Smash has an answer outside of this Lopunny. The Gliscor will die from another hit. The Toxapex will die from another hit. Um, I doubt the Ferrothorn will be able to do enough damage to this Hoopa. Um, this Lopunny is very much a key pillar of Ant Smash's team here, and in being able to deal with this Hoopa. If that Lopunny goes down, then we could
ooh,
be in a bad state, as we will see the Kyurem come in as the Alomomola comes in the opposite side. A good switch will allow this Kyurem to safely set up a substitute if it is a sub-roost one. Scold will not be able to break through that sub.
while that's true, the combination of potentially Scald and Flip Turn, although will you even be able to get that off remains the question. This is a very good pivot for Ant Smash here. Of as Lomomola is able to successfully somehow get a very good read here, potentially
Going for the
trying to Earth
protect,
Power.
as Kyurem goes for the Earth Power, likely predicting a hard switch. Deciding not to go for the substitute. Potentially, this is not a sub-roost Kyurem.
What I'm more curious about is if there's potentially a Tapu Koko or something we could ground on the team that would likely be able to ignore substitute, potentially something like Melmetal. Kyurem comes out as the Garganackle comes in.
I think with that Earth Power, I think that might be a Specs Kyurem. Switching out like that.
I do believe we have confirmation of all of the team members now, by the way. I do believe that is the case. Choosing to not run Blissey here. There we go. In comes the Hoopa. This is interesting. How much damage are we going to be seeing from this Hoopa here?
I guess it depends what move it decides to press. I don't know what moves this thing could be running. It wouldn't surprise me if it has something that can shot a Garganackle. I doubt a Garganackle can threaten a one-shot on a Hoopa. Although I doubt it wants to be Salt Cured, as would very heavily reduce its launch.
While that is certainly true, something else to consider is that the only thing that could. There we go. Dark Hole is still dealing significant amounts. Garganackle goes for the Salt Cure. And then we do have the leftovers. I don't. Even if it goes for something like Protect here, um, I suspect that nothing can safely switch into this thing. Not even like maybe perhaps the Curum, but do you really want to risk taking that much damage?
Either something is dying, or I mean, the only other option really is that Kyurem take huge damage, potentially even go down. Um, and in which case he'll be easily revenge killed. Either way, the vast majority of Ant Smash's team is below half health.
There we go.
I do see the
Choosing to
Gliscor
bring
coming
in the
back in.
Gliscor. I see the vision actually. Um,
As
there
Toxapex
was
will come out
potentially
from
the
side.
opportunity for a lot of damage to be brought onto the. I will say this is interesting. Choosing to bring this in, certainly a good play, and I don't
I'm
think I see
assuming
any
they
wish
want to.
passing.
I'm assuming they want to play safe around that Hoopa. They don't want to lose it. They don't want to potentially lose it to Assault Cure. Um,
Second set of rocks, actually, not the worst idea I've seen. Certainly, not allowing the Lopunny to come back in safely, hello, potentially even allowing things to be threatened later. However, allowing this Gliscor to heal up could be pretty devastating, as Gliscor chooses to actually go for Roost here, which could backfire. We'll have to see. Gliscor goes for the U-turn here. Chances are, it's this Gliscor is going to try and pivot into something else. What I'm interested in seeing is if he chooses to swap to Alomomola here. Although it's a bit too early to tell. I will say I will be right back for a brief moment. I'll be back soon enough.
do have, I believe that was Hontley's Gliscor. Thinking carefully, think about what they want to bring in. The Alumamola does come in. Now, in a 1v1, I do believe Alumamola does just win out due to its, frankly, stupid bulk and its access to Scold. We do see the Defog coming out, though, as Alumamola goes for Wish, likely looking to pass Wish onto something else. Or allow for its longevity against this Gliscor. We may very well see a Scold coming out this next turn. Or we may see something else come in looking for that HP boost. Wish. I do see the Earthquake come out. Zlomomolo will go for the flip turn, a slow flip turn, allowing something to come in, doing a bit of chip in that Gliscor, and something to come in with that health boost. Presumably the Hoopa. No, as their own Lopunny will come in. Looking to potentially threaten this Gliscor with a mix of a fake out and a triple axle potentially in the back pocket. We do see Toxapex coming back in as Lopunny goes for the U-turn. but will allow room for that Hoopa to come right back in. We do see the Ferrothorn coming in, taking a Psyshock, not actually taking a huge amount, and with this Hoopa being likely choice specs, that's not ideal, especially as we have seen this Ferrothorn go for a knockoff already.
My apologies, everyone. We are back into the swing of things. I have clearly probably missed a bit. Feel free to remind me.
Not
What exactly
much. Not
happened?
much. Couple back and forths. We have revealed that Huntley also has a Megalopony. Um, but aside from that, nothing big has happened.
Have we had any significant deaths
No,
since?
no deaths at all. We do see Ferrothorn go for the Leech Seed as Cinderace comes back in, looking at Ferrothorn right back out the field. Although likely bringing the Toxapex back in, what we saw before, does Huntley maybe decide to not just go for a Pyro Ball or something or a U-turn, maybe just decide to go for a hard switch? U-turn would likely be best. At least then you do get a hit off.
Of course, the question does remain: is Smash likely to predict an oncoming U-turn?
Well, either way, if they go for a turn, allow the they do decide to stay and go for a move, they will be slower, and it will not be a slow U-turn. So that will allow them potentially damage what's coming in. And if it's the Hoopa, that could be big, as if that Hoopa gets knocked off, losing that stopping power would be very bad. Do see the Gliscor come in as Cinderace actually decides to stay in, going for the Pyro Ball. Would be able to threaten that Gliscor if it wasn't for both the Leech Seed and the Poison Heal, allowing that Gliscor to heal most of the damage that was just done right back. I suspect we will see the Cinderace U-turn here, um, likely bringing in the Alomomola.
There we go. In comes the U-turn, dealing a little bit of extra chip damage. As Alomomola comes out, Gliscor goes for a U-turn themselves, That Rocky helmet allowing for a little bit of extra trip, which could matter. What comes out though? In comes the Toxapex. I would wager in this instance, Toxapex is at full. Um, Something I would expect to happen is likely going to be that toxic. Aloma Mullet choosing to pivot out. We know now it's faster. Gliscor comes in. Toxapex lays down toxic spikes. That could be very dangerous. As I highly doubt Earthquake will be even enough to 2-hit KO.
We did see the other Gliscor on the opposing side was running Defog. This one may be too. May be able to get rid of that Toxic Spikes, but will be unable to threaten my damage on Apex. Be able to just reset those. The Toxic will, however, switch out as Gliscor goes for Earthquake, not going for a default. Although now would be an opportune time to do so if it has it. If being a very big word here.
There we go. Gliscor setting up rocks.
Likely meaning it doesn't have defog. Or potentially trying to force the hand of the opposing Gliscor, trying to get it to defog instead. You see one of the Gliscors you turn out. I didn't see which one that was.
I suspect it is I suspect it's actually Bono Huntley's Gliscor coming out first, but the question remains, what do you want to bring in this situation? Potentially a poison type, sure, but that is just allowing it to be susceptible to an earthquake, unless on the random off chance you decide to do something else. It's a bit hard to say for certain what's going to happen here. Aloma Mola choosing to be brought in, that could certainly be a key factor. That combination of poison heal and earthquake will probably be very significant here. We know now for certain that Aloma Mola is slower in this instance. There we go. Toxapex is being brought in as a Lomomola goes for the wish.
Both teams trying to find any cracks in the walls they can.
There we go. Gliscor brought in as Toxapex goes for more Toxic Spikes. Alomomola going for. This is interesting. Is there do we know if we have any means of removing these hazards? I believe he
I
said there
believe
was a defog earlier.
the only defogger I've seen has been on Ant Smash's side, and Ant Smash is currently the one setting these hazards. We did see the Stealth Rock come out from this Gliscor earlier, likely trying to bait Ant Smash into defogging, but by the fact that a second layer of Toxic Spikes has just been set, I don't think Ant Smash has any intention to do so. Keep in mind, we do have this Cinderace, which, although if it came in, it would get affected by those two layers of Toxic Spikes. It may be able to do a court change. So I also question how useful that would be, as it certainly wouldn't be that useful in the Toxapex nor the Gliscor. Um, there is definitely other Pokemon on Ant Smash's side that would very heavily affect. We see both Gliscors out on field. You see the
There
Alomomola
we go.
coming back
Alomomola's
in.
brought.
We might see a repeat of these Pokemon for a while. Alomomola and Gliscor on Hauntley's side, and uh, Gliscor and Toxapex on Ant Smash's side.
We'll have to see whether or not this actually happens, though. I do believe we are. I do believe while we are waiting for this, how do you think this is going to go? Obviously, with the toxic spikes on the field,
I'm
there has to be
unsure.
some way to remove.
I think that I still think Hauntley can win this. I can imagine multiple scenarios in my head that Hauntley can win this. But I think right now, undeniably, with these hazards on field, Ant Smash is a fantastic advantage. We do see the Garganackle come back out to slowly threaten this Alumamola.
Could this potentially be the out we need? As I would imagine with these stealth rocks, I don't think Garganackle can safely come back
Ooh,
in.
yeah. That
Meaning,
fair that
I would actually wager.
I would say the biggest thing in this match right now is honestly Ant Smash's Ferrothorn, as that is the one Pokemon preventing Hauntley from just sweeping with Koopa. Expect to see the Gliscor coming back in. Yep. Not wanting to risk anything getting poisoned.
I I do want to check to see if I do think actually with that leftovers it might be able to survive another turn. but I highly doubt it'll be able to safely switch in.
I'm assuming it's either going to sack itself here or is going to hard pivot out, as I expect to see a U-turn from high score.
Although here's the thing, I believe if it does attempt to go for that U-turn, there is a very slim chance we could see this Garganagle potentially surviving. Going
We'll
for
go for an
Raw Earthquake,
earthquake.
actually.
We'll decide to sacrifice that Garganacle as we have our first death. I believe that's the first death of this match. Something that was looking to potentially disrupt that Hoopa with that Salt Cure. We do see the Ferrothorn come back on field, wanting to prevent that Alomomola from coming in. Maybe forcing the Cinderace to come in and take those toxic spells.
Well, that could be the case. Something I'm wondering. I believe it was, at least at the current moment, with the toxic spikes and all that. How many opportunities is there to protect?
We will see the Cinderace come in, taking that poison. Likely knowing it's already quite low. Ferrothorn will plant that Leech Seed as well, doing even more damage. Will also prevent the Cinderace from being able to threaten the Gliscor, as that Leech Life plus Poison Heal recovery, not Leech Life, sorry, Leech Seed plus. We actually see the Aluma. Oh, we see the Alumamola coming back in, as Ferrothorn will switch out into the Toxapex.
Something interesting is that there is pretty much no way for this Alomomola to think to poison. We know now it's just regularly poisoned thanks to only one layer of spikes being up.
I think if we would have seen a court change, I think we would have seen it then. When the Ferrothorn is forced out and Cinderace has a turn, I think we would have seen the court then, but we didn't.
There we go. The Alomomola is brought back out. As Alomomola goes for the wish.
Potentially looking to bring that Cinderace back in at full health. It has already been knocked off, so it's not in fear of being knocked off again. I think if Ant
Wow, that
Smash
is
loses another Pokemon, I think they'll be in a really, really bad position. But I think if Hauntley lose, I think they can afford to potentially lose a Pokemon. Feel right, depending on what exactly they.
that is true. Immediately trying to pivot out into the Cinderace. Cinderace does feint here to poison. I do think that will negate the wish, unfortunately. What I'm more curious to see here, um, I'm more curious to see something else, in fact.
You do
I
see
could be
the Hooper come on field taking that toxic.
what I want to see here is whether or not it goes for a dark move like Dark Pulse to be generally safe, or if it chooses to go for something a little more risky like a fighting move.
I think we may very well see a dark type move here. Um, I don't know exactly how much a dark pulse would do in this Ferrothorn. It might be enough. It would certainly be enough to kill most of the things on Ant Smash's team if they want to switch in. Safest bet is likely just keeping this Ferrothorn in. The only thing it really is a thorn in the side of is this Hoopa. If you live here, then a knockoff could be huge.
Uba goes for the Dark Pulse, almost KOs.
Oh, and we'll go down to the Power Whip. I think that may very well be it for Hauntley.
I will. Ooh, that is true. However, um, this Ferrothorn cannot safely come in to threaten the Alomomola anymore, as at this point it's at 7% HP, and I've yet to see any sign of leftovers. Gliscor comes in, and unless the Toxapex or not, sorry, the Toxapex, unless Gliscor does remove that, I will say this. I do not think this. I don't think this Ferrothorn is really safe anymore.
Also, it's not at 7%, by the way. It's at 7 health. We do see the
There we
Ferrothorn
go.
actually decide to
Gliscor brought
hard
in.
pivot out as the Gliscor comes in, um, taking the U-turn, deciding to keep that Ferrothorn alive, essentially as a sacrifice later. Losing that Hoopa is
This
very,
is
very
actually
bad for
kind of
Haunsley. They're going to have a significantly harder time breaking through these walls.
We'll have to see, though. Is there potentially another wall breaker we've yet to see? It looks like that is the case. And this is potentially what he was saving the Melmetal in the back for. Ferrothorn, of course, being a really common counter to Melmetal.
This
I'm curious
momental,
to see
I'd
what
say
he goes.
the only thing I think Man Smash is confidently 1v1 this Melmetal is that Lopunny. But I don't know if that Lopunny can switch in on these Stealth Rocks. And if it can switch in, it's certainly not going to be able to hard switch in. It's going to have to be slow U-turned in, or something's going to have to die to allow it to come in.
That is certainly true. But the
And
question
even then,
remains,
the
what do you choose?
Aloma Mola on Huntley's side is still up. This Melmetal may dictate the rest of this match.
I will say that is pretty significant. Not only removing, I think he did. I think the Garganackle is gone,
Yeah, it
right?
is
I could
gone.
be
Yep.
wrong. With Garganackle gone, likely this is actually a tough choice to make. There we go, choosing to sack it as Melmetal fails to Ice Punch.
Likely looking to bring in that Alumamola safely. Stealth Rocks are still on field.
Boxpex being chosen to draw it back in, potentially trying to go for the Scald Burn.
A burn on this Melmetal would be huge, but that requires the burn actually happening. This Toxapex will only be able to take so many punches.
That is true. We do have a choice between Thunder Punch and Ice Punch, or even potentially even Earthquake here. It's a bit hard to say what will be being brought out. Gliscor certainly could be a good
I
check.
mean, you play it safe here, just go for the double Iron Bash. I think Melmetal's faster. If you get those flinches, what's Toxapex gonna do? I
Aloe
do
comes
see the
in.
Melmetal switching out as the Toxapex does go for Scald.
This is actually quite a bit of an interesting dilemma here. The only defensive Pokemon remaining are the Gliscor and Toxapex, both of which would likely succumb to a freeze dry. If there even is a freeze dry. What I'm still unsure of though is what does Huntley do in this situation? Aloe goes for the flip turn as Gliscor comes in, takes quite a bit from Scald. I would imagine in this case, this is actually a bit interesting to see what happens here. Um, while Gliscor is very much a safe choice, Gliscor could the Gliscor and Huntley's end could very well just U-turn out. It looks like they do choose to stay in, potentially a very good read here, as Aloe's brought back out. Hogspex goes for the cover. I don't really think that matters quite that much at this point. What I'm unsure of here is how Sizar is trying to do it. Aloe going for the flip turn once again as Gliscor is brought in. A critical hit. Gliscor will likely be forced to roost here, as I do believe the question still remains though, is Toxapex given a free opportunity here? I'm a little bit curious to see what happens. And it appears we wait with bated breath to see what happens. There we go. Gliscor goes for the U-turn. As Alomomola goes for the as Alomomola's brought in, taking the Scald. What I'm curious to see though is now this is going to be interesting. Obviously, Alomomola can go for a relatively safe wish here. How much damage would be taken though? That's what I'm curious about. Obviously, Alomomola very much proving its worth here. Gliscor comes in as Alomomola goes for the wish. Gliscor hurt a little more. What does the Alomomola? What can the Alomomola do here, though? That's what I'm not certain about. Alomomola might be forced to either go for the flip turn or potentially take an earthquake here. Either of which might not be too favorable. It's either a hard switch or a flip turn. That much is certain. We'll just have to see which is which, though. There we go. We finally have hazards removed.
I think it might be a bit too little too late, though. I guess it's likely to bring that Lopunny in. You see Melmetal coming back in. Gliscor will be unable to slow U-turn here, as Melmetal will be slower and will die to an Ice Punch. Lopunny will be unable to safely come in this turn, unless his Gliscor wants to die. I mean, even then, I mean, let me just quickly check the calcs. I don't think a Mega Lopunny can one-shot a. I might be wrong. I don't think it can one-shot a
There we go.
Melmetal.
Oh my god, the read. What going for the Thunder Punch there is pretty important. Question still remains though, do you choose to keep this in or do you try to pivot back out into Gliscor? One bad read here could be devastating for
So
Ant here.
I just ran the calcs. A Mega Lopunny is unable to one-shot a Melmetal, even if it is a zero investment in anything Mel. This Melmetal uh, almost certainly has an insane amount of investment into bulk, due to the fact that they rarely have any speed investment because of how slow they are. This could be very, very bad for Ant Smash.
I'm looking at this. I'm uncertain of exactly
See another Thunder
what.
Punch coming out as Toxapex goes for the Scald. It does not get the burn.
I would imagine in this instance, you are very much forced to swap here.
Force
But
to
no matter
swap or
what
lose the
comes in,
Toxapex.
I would imagine no matter what comes in here, it's going to be threatening a lot of damage.
Oh
That might
yeah.
have been the gambit Ant Smash was trying to go for. That 30% burn would have made the difference. But
I
now
mean,
this Melmetal is free to run wild. Double Iron Bash would likely KO the Toxapex from this range. I can't even begin to imagine the amount of.
very possibly threaten the Gliscor as well. It may just want to run Ice Punch just to be safe. I believe that would be able to kill this Toxapex at this range. It is at very, very low health. I think that would be enough. Um, Although they might want to run the Calcs to be sure. It would be enough to kill the Lopunny, and it would certainly be enough to kill the Gliscor. We'll have to see for sure, but this Toxapex may well go down this turn. And if so, I don't know if Ant Smash has an answer for this Melmetal anymore. As both the Gliscor and the uh, Lopunny can be partly walled. If we do go for the double iron bashes, the Lopunny comes in and goes down, choosing to sacrifice the Lopunny, likely looking to get the regenerator proc from Toxapex to bring it up slightly higher to maybe get that Scald burn a second time.
While that's true, given the amount of damage we saw, I don't know if it'll be able to survive a second. I don't know if it'll be able to survive a second another Thunder Punch. And for all we know, we could even be seeing an Earthquake here. However unlikely that is.
Either way, only the Toxapex and the Toxapex Gliscor. That's it on Ant Smash's side, right? Everything that's left. Lopunny's down, Garganacle's down, Fairthorn is basically dead. Something else I'm forgetting?
The Curum is left, I
Oh,
believe.
right, the Curum, yeah. For a second, I genuinely thought that was one of the fighters that said BRB.
Toxapex is brought back in.
Just around half health. I don't know if Thunder Punch will be enough here.
Uh, I believe it was around 164 when I saw the
It
health
might be a
last time. It went
roll.
down to about 37.
Might be a
It either
roll.
survives on one or it's a roll. It's very much a roll in this case. Gliscor comes in.
Taking the double iron bash and going down. That was, I think, the last thing that can confidently do damage on this Melmetal. I think it might be over. Toxapex does get that extra health boost. We'll be able to go for a secondary Scold, threatening a burn on this Melmetal. But I'm wondering, is that too late? As the damage dealers against this Melmetal are gone, the only thing left that can threaten damage on this Melmetal is that Curum with an Earth Power. But if this is an Assault Vest, that will still not be enough and will likely still, even with a burn, will probably still go down to a double iron bash.
While that is true, does Huntley want to risk the burn here?
I don't know. I'm assuming they're going to just play it safe and switch to the Lomomola, give themselves some space, whittle down this Toxapex a bit more, whittle down that PP, burn through some turns, and maybe get a more advantageous time to bring in the Melmetal. We'll have to
That
see.
certainly is true. I could be wrong. I believe we've seen Toxic Spikes and Scald, right? Have we seen any other moves come out?
Um, it's used recover, right? Once.
I will. Oh, true.
I don't think it has Baneful Bunker. Do you see the Memento switch out, bring in the Skull? It is a crit, but it doesn't matter that much.
What? Something I'm a little less certain about, at least for now, is what this Loma Mola can do. Obviously, it can just sit here on the field. If it lands a Toxic against the Curum that could come in, that would be devastating. Of course, it still remains to be said. I'm not certain what Pokemon are left on Huntley's team, but if it's just Alomomola and Melmetal, we could be looking at a very tough game here.
Isn't Gliscor still, or did that die?
I do think the Gliscor is, in fact, still alive.
Either way, both go down to potentially to that Kyurem. However, that Kyurem is choice specs. If you lock that Kyurem into either Earth Power or Freeze Dry, you could have. I mean, if you lock into Freeze Dry, you can just run mad with Melmetal. If you lock it into Earth Power, then Kyurem is your guy. We do see Alomomola going for another flip turn.
This is probably going to be Scald coming out. Gliscor comes in, takes quite a bit of damage.
The Wish will bring it back to full, though.
Now,
Threatening with an Earthquake, trying to whittle this Toxapex down with the Gliscor so you don't have to worry about the burn on the Melmetal.
There we go, Stealth Rock, allowing it to go for that. Going for another Scald here, certainly not anywhere nearly enough. I doubt Earthquake KOs.
I doubt it KOs, but it will do a lot of damage and potentially allow space for the Melmetal to come in and clean up, depending on how Ant Smash plays this. Also, may force out the Ferrothorn, which could go down. May force out more recovery PP. We'll have to see.
I'm trying to think of what Pokemon Huntley has left. I know, I believe Gliscor was defeated, right, with Double Iron Bash?
Yes.
There we go, going for the Earthquake. Dealing
another Earthquake will kill that Toxapex, by the way.
That is true. Something to consider, though, is if Gliscor goes for one hell of a gambit here, it could go for it and go just.
I think you go for the Earthquake. You force out either that Ferrothorn to kill it, and get rid of that crutch, or you.
Ferrothorn was gone.
As if I thought it was barely still alive.
No.
Oh, was it sacked earlier?
What I'm curious to see is what is going to happen here. Are they actually trying to bribe? Looks like just going.
Toxapex will go down. The last thing that can stand in front of that Melmetal confidently. We do see the Kyurem coming out. It has to make a choice. It locks itself in with the freeze dry. Melmetal now can just come in and can clean up. I believe this is the end. They're not even going to go for the Melmetal. They're bringing the Lopunny. I forgot that was even a Pokemon. We'll be able to clean up this Kyurem, I believe. If a close combat isn't enough, a fake out into a close combat will be. Not playing any risks, goes for the fake out. This will be the end. I do believe Astral is now knocked out of the tournament as PokeSaga, our 8th seed, will be moving on to the finals.
That was certainly an upset as I've been looking between this round and some of the others, Astral have really been gassing themselves up. And for what it's worth, X-Match put up one hell of a fight. But of course, PokeSaga has been able to somehow defeat it, knocking Astral to either 4th or 3rd place. I do believe up next is the battle between Galaxia and Hollowed Fantasy. We'll have to see who between them will be able to take gold or silver here.
Either way, that does mean that our 8th seed has at the very least guaranteed themselves that 2nd spot possibly that first spot. We'll have to see how they do in the finals at some point this coming week. Of course, we have one more match to get to before that. That is not scheduled yet, so we don't know when that will be. If you want to keep up to date on that scheduling information, you can come and join the Discord though. So that was actually some pretty good matches and quite the upset as that was our highest remaining seed at 5th place has been knocked out. Our next highest is the 6th seed as PokeGalaxia, who will be coming up in the next match, as stated before, going against Hollowed Fantasy, the 7th seed. Really unsure how those matches are going to go out. I don't really have a prediction either way. That is our first match of the semi-finals over. Thank you for coming so much to watch. Thanks as always to the refs and the supports and the organizers who make all this possible. And thanks for both Astral and PokeSaga for participating here today. It's a bit late. We are in the semi-finals, but I'm going to say it as always. It's a bit late, but if you do want to support the tournament or sponsor it or put anything towards the prize pool, there is a section dedicated to that on the Pixelmon World Cup website. And also, the Discord link is also on the website if you want to come and be up to date on the scheduling information or you just want to come hang out. Either way, that will be all our matches for you today. Congratulations to PokeSaga moving on to the grand finals as our 8th seed. Quite the shock. And thank you for Astral MC for participating. We do hope to see you next year. For now, however, that is all we have for you. I have been your commentator, Alba.
I've been your commentator, Delta, and we hope to continue to see you all in the next set of matches between Galaxia and Hollowed Fantasy. And at least for the time being, we hope we continue to have a good morning, noon, evening, or night. Signing out, everyone.
See you there.